Is it possible for me to do a different hairstyle? Yes. Am I going to? No. So it's been a couple weeks since I've talked about third wave feminism and how bad it is for the world, so I thought, hey, let's rehash my favorite topic. Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to my channel. Now, if you're new here, there is one core thing you're gonna need to know. I don't like feminism. Yeah. Sydney, I just feel like you're extra critical of feminism because you don't understand what it's like. Now, part of my main concern with the ideology that is feminism, because that's kind of what it is that I feel as though it encourages a victimhood mentality in women and also a lot of really unnecessary man-hating. Honestly though, like, who actually hates men? I mean, they carry things for you and they smell good. An additional problem with feminism is it often starts these ideas like Believe Women, which came out of the Brett Kavanaugh witch hunt, for lack of a better term, and ideas like Me Too and things like that, which basically serve to validate women in basically any and all situations without ever actually questioning what they do and say. That way of thinking is dangerous. And in truth, I guess that this way of thinking about the world basically creates social systems and judicial processes that entirely favor women. Combine those things with victimhood mentality, man-hating, and oversensitivity, and you have yourself a perfect storm for a bunch of false allegations of the domestic abuse and sexual assault variety. The clip I'm about to show you guys popped up on my newsfeed the other day, and for me it really drove home why it is so dangerous to blindly believe things that people say and the allegations that they come up with. Like, what a weird juxtaposition. Yeah, I mean, I always listen to classical music while I'm hitting myself.
Do your forehead again.
So like on the weekend, Jamie Lynn and I were like hanging out, and all of a sudden she's like, you know it'd be real funny if I like hit myself in the face with a hammer? I like that. That's fun. I do that sometimes when I'm making out with my cousin.
Nope. What are you gonna do if he's won and you're just abusing yourself for no reason?
What are you gonna do if he's won and you're just abusing yourself for no reason?
Juicy marks.
It's red. Do your forehead one more time.
Yeah, it hurt.
Wow, you know what, I guess, yeah, it depresses me that there are people like this in the world. So we can definitely say from this that there's some sort of man involved in this situation when her friend says something to the effect of, you know, what are you gonna do if he's lying and you're hurting yourself for no reason? But obviously we don't have any sort of context for what kind of a relationship these people have, and even if this is a boyfriend that she's talking about, we're not, you know, we don't really have anything to go off of. So I guess that from my perspective, we kind of have to assume, unfortunately, that this girl is actually a nutcase. I guess there's probably not that many lights on at home if you're standing around hitting yourself with a hammer while your friend films and you're listening to who I'm assuming is Andrew Bocelli singing in the background. That's probably the start of like a really weird porno. But I guess if we really think about it, context probably isn't all that important in this situation, simply because hitting yourself with a hammer at any point, hitting yourself with anything at any point to try to set someone up is not okay, regardless of the situation surrounding what you're doing. Sydney, seriously, we're supposed to believe Wayman. Didn't you hear? You're getting extra crazy, huh? Now, if you actually look up the rates of false sexual assault and false domestic violence allegations, you'll find a lot of articles and studies that say they're pretty far and few between. Unless you're as dumb as this girl and you put it on the internet. Now, just on a preliminary Google search, I found a lot of articles, predominantly from left-wing institutions, that were saying that false sexual assault allegations are definitely uncommon. There was one BBC article in particular that said that over the past 20 years, only 2 to 10% of rape accusations are proven to be fake. The article goes on to say that the study concluded there is really no way of telling how many fake sexual assault allegations go on annually simply because there are too many variables, and the real number is just generally unknown. Yeah, that throws the whole argument right out of the water. The article also says that statistical information from the FBI puts the amount of unfounded rape accusations after investigation at about 8%. This is my favorite part of the whole article. Fake rape accusations get a lot of attention. You think? Yeah, they do get a lot of attention, usually because they ruin the lives of the men who are accused. Funny about that. Honestly, we really don't care about ruining men's lives. Do you even hear yourself? Seriously, even if we can actually ruin a couple along the way, I feel like we've achieved something seriously good. You know, fight the patriarchy and all that. The same sort of sentiment was applied to domestic violence, fake accusations, where people basically said in articles that it's very uncommon, la la la. But I did notice in my reading that it seems as though people do accept that this happens more commonly than fake sexual assault allegations.
What are you gonna do if he's won and you're just abusing yourself for no reason?
You know what's funny is the thing that makes me kind of genuinely sad about this is that the writers of these articles act as though the people who've been falsely accused, it's just like, oh, whatever, like, it's fine, like, whatever, yeah, I mean, like, people lie, but whatever, it's fine, like, it's cool. It's not cool. So I did some additional clicking and Googling and the interneting, and I found that there are a lot of other articles and studies that do validate the fact that there are an awful lot of fake rape and fake domestic violence allegations that happen annually. Now, I did find an article that says that courts in the United States issue 1.5 million false or trivial temporary restraining orders every single year. The article goes on to say that in nearly half those cases, no physical violence actually occurs. This makes up about 70% of the total number of restraining orders courts issue every year. That means that only 30%, less than half, of those restraining orders are for actual situations where violence has occurred. The article does go on to talk about the expense to the taxpayer in doing all of this, and that's honestly the thing that occurred to me when I was reading this is what a waste of taxpayer money, police time, and court time. I blame feminism for all of this. You did this to us feminists. You own the responsibility. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't give you guys any responsibility over anything, even if you paid me. Which the bulk of you probably can't do anyway, so it's fine. The other thing that this article says that I think is really important to note is that only 15% of these trivial or false restraining orders target women, meaning that 85% of them target men. That's a lot of men. That's a lot of men. So this article also tells us that every year, on average, there are about 700,000 false domestic violence charges put against people, given to people. Charged with people charged with.
You could do so. You want him to do.
That is a lot of false charges. Like a lot of false charges. And the worst part about it is you have men who are being hauled off to prison for doing nothing, for actually doing nothing. Now, coming back to sexual assault allegations, if you've been following the news at all recently, you probably would have heard that in relation to Brett Kavanaugh, one of the women who said that he raped her multiple times came out and said that she made it all up and that she'd actually never even met the guy. This is where the whole believe women thing really just starts to fall in a heap, which surprises approximately none of us. So what we have so far in this video is a woman who is beating herself up with a hammer so that she can realistically probably accuse a man of beating her, and a Supreme Court justice who was falsely accused of rape and had his life destroyed. Yay! So let's just briefly come back around to the statistics before I give you my normal diatribe on what I think about all of this.
Please stop talking.
Ann Coulter posted a really good link to this article about 2 months ago, and I think that there's some really good stuff in it, but as with anything, I'd always caution people to approach information with a grain of salt and always do your own research. So the article basically talks about a woman who was part of the sex crimes unit for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, basically saying that there's this sentiment going on that women never lie. The article also talks about fake rape allegations in the army, which has tripled over the last number of years, which is not really unsurprising to me considering the social climate that we have at the moment. The article also goes on to tell us the primary reasons why people make up these false reports, and they are jealousy and or revenge, the need for an alibi, emotional problems / desire for attention, which obviously this also says that none of these are a surprise. I know that's what I do when I get jealous, ruin people's lives and what have you. Well, I've never lied about anything in my whole life. Except for that one time I couldn't get into a club and then I told the bouncer that if he didn't let me in, I'd say that he eye-raped me. Just so I don't bore everyone to death, let me just summarize some other things from the article that are pretty notable. In another study from 1983, which I know is a couple years ago, but is probably still relevant, when the researcher looked at 556 investigations of rape, they found that 27% of those were false. Some of the factors that are present when people make up these allegations are honestly really interesting, and while I don't want to bore you guys by reading all of them, these are the three that really stood out to me. So some individuals try to restore self-esteem and evade responsibility for their own behavior by fabricating claims of being lost, intoxicated, frightened, confused, or otherwise incapable of preventing their victimizations. Sound familiar? 75% of confirmed rape victims in the study said that they knew the assailant. About half of the false claims involved a non-existent stranger, with another third involving slight acquaintances. Sound familiar? Genuine rape victims invariably are able to provide detailed descriptions of the rape. Women making up false allegations typically are not clear on their descriptions. Some claim that they were unconscious or had their eyes closed. Others provide exquisitely detailed accounts described with pleasure. Investigators must be cautious, but extreme under- or over-reporting can be suspicious, especially if the story changes. Gee, that all sounds kind of familiar. So my problem with this, besides the obvious, comprises of a number of things. These kind of allegations that are false completely discredit genuine victims from either domestic violence situations or sexual assault situations. Because let's be fair, when a woman is actually being beaten and hurt and is fearful for her life, having women say that the same thing is happening to them when it's not actually happening to them only discredits the story of the woman who's actually being abused. And men, because this also happens to men. Because women are scary, especially when they have hammers. The other problem is that this totally clogs up our judicial system, and it also is a total waste of police time, effort, and energy. It drains resources, and it costs the taxpayer a lot of money. And obviously, let's be real, this completely destroys the life of the person who's being accused of sexual assault or domestic violence. It is really, really hard to come back from an allegation like that. The stigma surrounding these issues is so great, and the hostility towards people who hurt other people is so great, that as soon as somebody's accused of these things, we automatically assume that they're guilty, and then we treat them as such. These things, I'm actually not even exaggerating. These people are stained with these accusations for life, even if they turn out to be false. To have all of that compounded by people saying that we need to believe women and that women don't lie, you know what? It really only serves to make a situation that's already tenuous even worse. It honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it just makes it about virtue signaling rather than actually following the rule of law. The plain and honest truth is that you can totally support someone and be in their corner, but it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily believe their story 100%. You can still scrutinize and leave room for more justification or more information or for new information to come to light that might change the course of events. Accusing someone of sexual assault or domestic violence is genuinely a big deal. Like a really big deal. And the fact that we're at this point where we just believe people without any sort of processes in place, without any judicial processes in place, without any factual backed up information that's actually tangible is, in my opinion, ruining the course of justice. This is also why I hate the media and why I hate trial by media, because the media will get a hold of information, something salacious and fun, and they'll just build up hostility towards a person when there's basically no evidence to suggest that that person actually did anything. As far as I'm concerned, all these ideas, Me Too, believe women, blah, 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 they just destroy the integrity of the judicial system. So at the end of the day, what I'm really trying to get at is hitting yourself with a hammer to try to frame someone is bad, and saying that we need to believe women at all costs is bad, and falsely accusing people of rape is bad. But the good news is that provided that you address things with a level of individuality and skepticism, you should be fine. Yeah, so there's that. As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and apparently the thumbs up button, because apparently that's a thing. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so, just don't be rude about it. And I will see you guys next time with another installment of Sydney Has Opinions About Lots of Things.